Hello, hello, hello. It is Wednesday. Was that March 4th? And a green day at that. We were getting ready for St. Patrick's Day, apparently. I don't know if you looked at the markets. I'm sure you have. Wow. Pretty crazy stuff, man. Let me real quick just make sure that I'm live on X. Everything's good. I did switch over to Restream recently. And I'm kind of liking it. I'm learning the tools though still and everything. So going to all my different platforms. Man, what a day. Seriously, there was a lot that happened really after the stock market closed last night. I sent out some tweets about that, and we've had a lot of momentum carried into today. So I'm going to talk about the factors. There's like 4 or 5 factors I think that have kind of converged and why we're seeing this rally right now. Will we see it continue? And the price levels I'm looking at, I do have some trades that are open currently. Some huge things in the AI agent space. Some of the ones I've been covering quite a bit are getting a lot of recognition now. So that's very exciting. And some deepened projects, some good news, and some unfortunate news. So we'll cover that as well as some upcoming spaces. I have some project founders coming up the next couple of weeks on my Tuesday space. I'm excited about that. And I will be on a couple spaces tomorrow. So we'll highlight all that as well. I wanted to start off with this while people kind of filter in here, but did you guys know about this? So let me see how I can pull this up. Get up there. What the heck? I'm still learning. There we go. So this clip right here, I was playing earlier. I was like, this is wild to me. But this is, of course, Sting.
Is it true? Is it true that Diddy has to pay you $2,000 a day because he didn't ask permission to sample every breath you take?
Yeah.
Wow.
For the rest of his life.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you guys know this? I had no idea. So this is the original song by the Police. I'll be missing you. And apparently he didn't have permission to sample that. And he pays Sting at $2,000 a day. That's freaking nuts, man. But you know what's even crazier than that? It's not as much as Mariah Carey, off her Christmas song. She makes like $2.5 to $3 million a year just off of that Christmas song. That's freaking nuts. All right. Let's get into the crypto stuff, though, because that is what we care about. Let me share this real quick. Oh, man. Let's share this tab instead. Here we go. So this was the news that broke right about 24 hours ago. It was right after the stock market closed. And President Trump tweeted this about the Genius Act, basically saying we need to get the banks to the table. This needs to get done. And of course, the big holdup, make this bigger. The big holdup has been the banks versus the crypto industry. And the banks don't want the competition. They're basically saying, hey, we have all this extra regulation on us. If you want to become a bank, then be a bank. Okay, is what Jamie Dimon's over there saying. And the big problem is that they don't pay a lot of yield. Okay, our banks, they're happy to take your money and your deposits. Let me 1 second. I got all these notifications coming in. I'm going to mute those real quick. There we go. So the banks don't pay a lot of yield. You deposit your money, they hold it for you, but then they either buy treasuries where they're getting, 4 or 5% return on your money, or they're lending it out and getting a return that way. Then they turn around and pay you like 0.5%, and they pocket that difference. So the stablecoin issuers have to buy treasuries in the back end when they create stablecoins, like USDC, for example. There's money that's deposited there. They use that to buy treasuries, and then they issue stablecoins on chain. They're basically just taking US dollars, putting it on chain. That's what we transact with in crypto, right? They're getting a return, obviously, from their treasury holdings, right? That's actually Circle and USDT with, Tether. It's where a lot of their yield comes from, is from holding treasuries. They want to offer a more aggressive return for consumers. So, if you think about for someone like you and me, would you rather put your money in your bank account and get next to nothing, or have it in stable coins where you actually can get a pretty nice return on your money? And the banks want to stop that. It is essentially competition for them. And they're worried that if people are faced with that decision, they're going to pull money out of the banks. And, their whole stance is, well, we have a lot more scrutiny. These stablecoin issuers don't have all the regulation that we have to deal with. And, the crypto industry, and this is Brian Armstrong really is the one that kind of put a pause on everything. And he's like, this is BS, man. Like, they don't want competition. They should offer more yield. And that's kind of where we're stuck right now in this Clarity Act. And that is exactly what Trump's talking about here. So let me pull this back up again. You're saying that we are not going to allow the banks to undermine the Genius Act. So they're already trying to go back on prior legislation and change things. It says the U.S. needs to get the market structure done ASAP. This is also interchangeably known as the Clarity Act. So you've probably seen both. So the Genius Act was already passed. That had to do with stablecoin specifically. Market structure or Clarity Act is the one that is trying to get passed now. And it says Americans should earn more money on their money. Again, talking about getting a better yield from your bank. Banks are hitting record profits, and we're not going to allow them to undermine the powerful crypto agenda. And then he talks about how if we don't get this passed, China's going to win on crypto. So we need to get this taken care of. The banks should not be trying to undercut the Genius Act or hold the Clarity Act hostage. So they need to come to the table is basically what was said here. We also saw similar language coming from Cynthia Lummis trying to get this thing done. And even Charles Hoskinson, who's been very against the Clarity Act. I don't know if you saw his recent video. He was talking about how it's basically a horrible bill. And he's talking about how basically, I would say he's doing the opposite of endorsing it. But even he said, I agree with the president here. The banks have amended this bill 137 times. Let's stop messing with it. And it started making me wonder, are they just trying to delay this, kick down the can down the road? Because the banks know that if they delay this up until the midterms, then it's probably not going to get passed. And the banks don't want the competition. So I think they're kind of playing this game of delaying on purpose for that reason. I don't know. But here's what was weird to me is that after the tweet from the president, after Cynthia Lummis coming out, we did not see Polymarket really move at all. Okay, if we look at the last day here, very little movement. So that told me a couple of things. And again, you should always use prediction markets, guys, because it tells you how much is baked in already. And this is exactly what we saw here, yesterday when I sent out a tweet about this. But we saw almost no movement at all on the likelihood of the Clarity Act getting passed this year after this tweet from Trump. And I think there's a couple of reasons for this. Obviously, there are reports leaking out prior to this that people started betting in the betting markets that this thing was going to get passed based on knowledge that was already known. You also had this March 1st deadline that Trump had set that we had to get this thing passed by March 1st or, whatever. And so I think building up to that, people had started to bake in that this was going to get passed as well. And I think people had gotten a little bit overly optimistic there for a minute. And I think this tweet from Trump actually showed that maybe we weren't as close as people had thought. But regardless, we just saw almost no move here. And this is when I sent out this tweet. I was like, Trump just reiterated the need for banks to come to the table to get this thing done. Prediction markets have barely moved. Prices have barely moved. Like either we're early here or the markets are just completely cooked. And we did not see much movement last night. I did open some longs. So I was like, oh, maybe, I was like, we're at 71%. Maybe we'll see a little tick up here. I don't know. I didn't open up anything substantial though. Okay. These were like small, long positions. And then this morning I wake up and I'm like, what's going on here? Like after seeing red for the last, 6 months, I'm like, what is this color? It's been a long time since I've seen this much green. And sure enough, markets were starting to go crazy. I think part of it was certainly that these reports, these tweets from Trump were starting to circulate, and he even doubled down basically on video talking about how we need to get crypto bill passed and how we want to be, the crypto capital of the world, etc. So that was certainly part of it. But there's also some news that came out, some reports that came out early this morning that Iran had been reaching out to the US about a ceasefire deal. Now, on that news, we saw the markets really surge up. Of course, shortly thereafter, we saw that Iran was denying those reports. Now, we saw a huge red wick after this report. It's actually crazy to see it in real time. So, on the original report, we saw this huge move up. Then we saw quite a correction when this report came out. But I think overall, the Clarity Act news, and then this, of course, is the manufacturing PMI. So this is a survey that's done, which really determines whether or not we're in an expansionary period or if we're contracting in our economy. And I think this is other news that was really playing in here, because if you look back historically, expansionary periods on this have correlated with our traditional market cycles. You'll notice here, this is right where we started raising rates drastically to fight inflation, and it contracted our economy. We're finally, for the first time since we started cutting rates, seeing this number above 50. Anything above 50 would be considered expansionary. Anything below 50 would be contraction. So we are seeing expansion 2 months in a row for the first time since the Fed started raising rates, back in 2022. So we had that news. We had the Clarity Act news. We had some reports that tensions were easing maybe a little bit on the war front. And I think all those things combined led to some serious positive price action. And you wonder, was it retail buying or was it institutional buying? Well, this is pretty interesting to look at. This is the net cash flows or inflows versus outflows on the ETFs. We've seen a lot of institutional buying here. And this is also, obviously retail buying through the retirement accounts, et cetera. But the net inflows right now on spot ETFs from the Bitcoin spot ETFs has been significantly positive over the last week and a half. It's a really good sign. Okay. So it's not necessarily retail. I'm sure some retail is getting in on the fun as well, but you've got institutional flows. You've got Clarity Act trying to be pushed forward, now at 71% likelihood. You've got expansionary metrics on the economy. And maybe the Iran war is starting to ease up a little bit. I have my doubts about that. But here's what we've seen. Okay, if we look at the chart here, and there are some key levels that I have marked here, ones that I've talked about a lot throughout my streams. But the one down here was the 60,000 mark that we tagged was the all-time, well, not the all-time low, but the low of this market cycle, at least. We've been hovering in this range, and 72,000 was the really key level that I've talked about for quite some time to break out of this downtrend. And sure enough, we did break above that this morning, and I did open up some longs. The other key level, though, is the $74,000 level, and this is the one that I'm really keeping a close eye on, because this was the level that we broke out of after the election. It's the one that we touched again when Trump first announced the tariffs about a year ago. You'll notice here we hit it and bounced right off of that. We pretty much swept it. Now, it's not surprising to me. I'm sure there's a lot of sellers sitting there right now, and I'm not saying we won't break through, but it might take another couple tries. We'll see. Where I'm at right now, though, is I still have my longs open. If we break above 74,000 and we have strength there, I will turn a lot more bullish. And that's when I'll be looking to enter in some pretty significant longs. For now, I'm keeping my long positions open. The ones I opened last night are in pretty heavy profit right now. The ones I opened this morning, if we start to drop back below 72,000, I'm going to probably close this. I'll probably close most of my trades at that point because I would be turning bearish again if that happens. So we'll see. We saw a pretty significant, we saw this get up. It was right at New York close. At the stock market close, we started to see a sell-off again. And that was today. So what type of price action will we see throughout the night? I don't know. I'm not fully bullish yet, guys. So leaving my long positions open for now, but waiting to see what happens at that $74,000 mark. I hope we break above that. It'd be great. It's a lot more fun being bullish than bearish. I have done pretty well in some shorts recently, but, and I will say if we drop back below 72,000 with a lot of strength, I might actually look at opening up some shorts again. I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but if the charts tell us differently and we break above 74,000, I will change my mind. Now, here are a couple things that concern me. We talked about the Iran war. This was earlier today, Pete Hegseth talking about where things stand.
More and larger waves are coming. We are just getting started. We are accelerating, not decelerating. Iran's capabilities are evaporating by the hour, while American strength grows fiercer, smarter, and utterly dominant. More bombers and more fighters are arriving just today.
Okay, so for all the people that are saying, oh man, things are easing up, he just said the exact opposite. Okay, so that's concerning to me. And the other thing I'll say here is this Clarity Act, 71% chance. Great. I love to see that, but at the same time, this thing better get done. Okay, that's a lot of downside now if this doesn't get passed. Okay, you're talking about 71% chance of it passing is baked into the market right now. That's a lot of downside risk, in my opinion, and that's something we have to be taking very seriously. And if it does get passed, I would expect that we will see some nice price action after that. But again, keep in mind, 71% of this is already baked in. There's another, 29% of upside that we can get excited about, but you have to keep that in consideration. So to me, those are really the couple things that concern me is that we still have the Strait of Hormuz as an issue, right? Oil prices could start surging. If we see oil prices surge, things continue to escalate. That's bad for inflation. Then we're going to start seeing in the prediction markets. Actually, let me pull that up right now. What are the chances of rate cuts this year? How many Fed rate cuts in 2026? So it's looking more and more likely. Look at this. We're seeing a shift towards less rate cuts. Not surprising. As we see oil prices go up, that is heavily correlated to inflation. If inflation's going up, that gives the Fed a lot less latitude to cut rates. By the way, Kevin Warsh was officially nominated today. I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but the White House nominated him officially today. So there are less rate cuts being figured in. That's bad for crypto. So those are the things we have to keep an eye on. But we have to hope that the Clarity Act gets passed at this point because now the market's expecting it. And anything different would be a really bad surprise to the downside, frankly. One other thing I want to play, and this is about the AI agents. Actually, let me get to some comments here. Who we have out there in the crowd? We've got Crypto Empress is out here. What's up, Crypto Empress? I want to be on her space tomorrow. It's exciting. We got Bobby in the house. Crypto's ripping. Yeah, it is. I hope it continues. We got Joe in here. Joe's always said everything back except Hype. Yeah, Hype hasn't been moving. Helium hasn't really been moving yet today either. That's super surprising. What else we got? We got Liz. Hello, Liz. And we got George in the house. How's it going, sir? And banks own the 29%. Yeah, they're They're betting on the Clarity Act not getting passed. I'm sure they are. Probably get a pretty good return there at 29% likelihood. All right. I want to play this clip, though. And this has to do with AI agents and their intersection with crypto.
You don't know whether OpenAI, Anthropic, or xAI will win the AI race, but you're certain they'll use crypto. How might that look like in practice?
Yeah, I think that's a super important point that AI agents aren't going to go down the street to a ionic column marble bank and get a normal bank account and transact in paper money. They have to use electronic money. As AI agents become more impactful, they have to use blockchain assets, and that will just increase the demand for blockchain assets.
We, in your view, in the coming years are going to have AI agents act in a fiduciary or financial capacity on our behalf?
It's already happening. AI agents are doing commerce. It's spinning up very, very quickly.
Are they using crypto or are they using USD?
No, they have to use crypto. Most AI agents will have to use crypto because they won't be backed by entities that can go get bank accounts for paper money.
Guys, I think this is becoming a clear intersection for AI agents, is that their financial transactions are going to be on chain, and it's going to be done obviously using crypto and likely stable coins. Some have their own tokens, whatever, but we're seeing this all over the place now, and it makes a lot of sense. And that this could be a huge catalyst for blockchain and crypto adoption. And of course, I've been covering a handful of AI agents myself for the last 6 weeks. I hope you guys have been paying attention because they've been up, up, up. And I put this video out right before we actually went into Iran. I was talking about how the prediction market showed, hey, looks pretty likely like this is going to happen. This is Friday of last week. So not even quite a week ago, but seems like forever ago, man. There's so much happening these days. But I'm going to play this clip about how I was planning on playing the pullback if we saw that happen. The thing I'd be looking at is, some of these AI agents I've been talking about, generally when we see a pullback in markets, they get hit particularly hard. And that's where you can really pounce on those opportunities. So keeping some stables in some of those wallets that I'm using to accumulate these AI agents. Okay. Well, here's what happened today. So hopefully, if you had any conviction in any of these, you're able to take advantage of this. But Kelly Claude up 20%, Felix up 37%. This is just in the last 24 hours, 37%, 57%. So those are the top four that I've really been pushing out a lot, a lot of info, a lot of updates out about those, and have pretty decent sized bags myself. But that is the beauty of being right about, or being ready rather, about when you have pullbacks in markets. So always keeping those stables there. We knew that the conflict was likely going to be coming. We'd have pullbacks from that, and seizing those opportunities. Now, Felix is the one I've been covering a lot. It was trending in the news today with 299 posts at the time. Why was that? Well, they brought Nat and Felix, Nat on Talk About Felix, on Bankless today. So it's obviously a massive account. So they did an hour and a half interview about Felix and the things he's doing there. So obviously getting a lot of attention now from some big accounts. I've been on this one since really the very beginning. And then Base also reposted from their official account about Felix. So I mentioned that, another one, Kelly Claude, was talked about at ETH Denver on stage. This is one that I've been in covering a lot, pretty extensively since $300,000 market cap, now sitting at $4.5 million. It got all the way up to a 20x. I think that we could still go substantially higher. So far, generated $84,000 in revenue over the last 30 days. And this thing seems to be on the right track to continue that trend. Of course, right now, sitting at just a $3.78 million market cap, man. I think we still got some room to run, man. 7.72 on Kelly Claude. This thing got down below, I think it was like 5.8 the other day on the pullback after all the geopolitical tensions. We've got Juno I've been covering quite a bit. This one goes down to like 900,000. And of course, OSO has been on a tear, up to 54% over the last 24 hours. The MetaMask Dev, this thing got down to like 450K the other day. So a lot of these pullbacks have now mostly, we're back, baby. And we are just getting started. I mean, a lot of these are starting to get some major recognition, which is exciting to see. We were very early, very, very early on this. All right. Let's talk a little bit about a few of the deep pin plays, some positives. We got a negative as well, unfortunately, but it wasn't too hard to see. Number one, 375 AI, guys, a few things that they have working. Obviously, they have they've done their beta launch with Target. I went around, I did take some pictures rather. It's a couple targets over the weekend, so that was fun. Pretty cool stuff, man. And they are going to be rolling this out at different Costco's and Walmarts and different locations with some really big brands. So that's pretty cool. But obviously their main moneymaker is going to be from this data. So they've got additional edge devices being installed across New York. They have a lot in California. I think they're already getting like 70% of California's traffic today. They're getting some down in Miami too, really hitting the major ports to start with, and then expanding from there. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And you can see some of the stuff they're working on. So they're doing a lot of tooling on the back end. They've got a pretty talented team. I mean, their app developer has extensive history, very successfully working with phone apps. So that's what they have working on that. It's a pretty clean UI, man. I gotta say their app looks pretty nice. And then the stuff they're doing here with this data collection, I know a lot of people are like, they don't get it, but when it comes to everyone leaning more and more on AI, having differentiated data sets, especially real world data, is going to be so freaking valuable, man. I know I've talked about it a lot, but let's see. We are looking at, now we're at 4 million market cap. Oh, for those that bought the super dip at 0.008, you're up over 100% now. I just got regular buy orders on Kraken, frankly. Super easy to set up on there. This is a pretty easy exchange to use, available in the US. So been dollar cost averaging on the reg on Kraken, and it's been pretty seamless. I don't know. Have we found the floor? Seems like that bleeding from Bitmart has ended potentially, because we haven't seen any big sell-offs recently. So that's pretty exciting. I think very, very bright future ahead for that project. Aoki's been on a tear too, obviously doing spatial data for robotics, and not just robotics, but they're also combining that with smart glasses and their phone app and their Cactus product, which they have 7-figure contracts for with retailers across Europe, a couple of Fortune 500 companies doing paid pilots in the US right now. So they are certainly chugging along. You've got Silencio had a nice little run up today. I was talking to Tyler from Unleashing DeepIn. He was talking to another group that's selling voice data, and sure enough, he was able to verify that these AI companies are paying anywhere from $25 to $100 an hour for voice training data. So Silencio has found quite a nice niche right now. They are capitalizing on that, and I think that should run for a little while at least. But like what they're doing there, and then Akash Network, they've obviously seen a little bit of a recovery recently. I think they are set, they are primed with the power issues we're seeing on the grid and just getting access to compute resources. That's going to be a huge story this year. So all of them really crushing it there. Let's see here. Fry. Nah, bro. Not me. Said, don't bet against me. Thanks, Jed. Jed's the man. Let's see here. What else we got? Can we go on a bender and spin up some agents? Tell you what, man. I haven't been doing many benders in a while, dude. I was finding that I was just crushing my productivity. But I'm up for one every once in a while. What else we got in here? Yeah, Fry. I've never invested in Fry. What does Akash even do? Akash is a decentralized compute project. So they are doing a lot of hackathons and powering AI agents. And they've also spun up some hardware recently where you can actually host your own compute locally, so you're not going through any like cloud services. And they just also introduced Burn Mint Equilibrium, and they have revenue that's growing pretty substantially right now. So doing pretty well. I am pretty long on Felix. So I got to say, though, I have a lot of AI agents that I'm pretty bullish on. Well, I'd say 4 right now. Felix, Juno, Kelly Claude are the main 3. Okay. I think those can go much higher. And then the other one's that Oso. So that's the one that's by that MetaMask dev. Let's see. Yes, Demo. To be honest, man, I sunset my fleet. Now I talked about this in my streams when they introduced the subscription model. I thought they made some missteps, unfortunately. And that's actually the next thing I want to share here is that Rob and Alex are stepping down from Demo. Not super surprising. You'll probably notice that I haven't covered Demo in quite some time. Fortunately, I mean, 2024, we did get a 15x out of it, which was awesome. We got up to like over 70 cents. I think I originally started covering it around like maybe 4 or 5 cents. So had quite a return there. But frankly, I thought that they made some missteps. In my opinion, let me go back over here. I think their communication on what they were doing wasn't very clear. I think most people that connected the device to their car thought that their data was just being monetized. And the way they had it set up was that you had to opt into using different applications and share your data with different applications. Otherwise, your data wasn't being utilized. And my advice to them was, well, why don't you, when people get signed up, have an auto opt-in feature to have your data shared, because that's what people think they're doing anyway. And then if they don't auto share their data, then they have a subscription model. Their data should be enough if it's auto sharing with these different applications to cover their connectivity cost and then some. And as you add more utility, it should more than cover that and generate you guys a lot of revenue. That was my suggestion. I'm sure they had their reasons why they didn't go that route, but I sunset my fleet when they introduced the subscription model, and it's unfortunate. But again, it was one of those projects where, we caught it at the right time. It did ride up a 15x, and one of those where, and I think a lot of these in this last market cycle, at least, were ones where probably been better off just buying the token, and instead of being a deployer, and then play the fear and greed index. It's really obviously super, super easy in hindsight, but I think we did everything. I did everything right there, except taking heavier profits when we had extreme greed in markets, but still did really well on that regardless. According to Demo, they are having Yev take over. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't covered them in quite some time because I've been divested and shut down my fleet. So I don't hold Demo myself at this point, and I haven't for quite a while. So you'll notice, like, I talk about the projects that I am invested in. Okay, those are the ones that I cover the most because those are the ones that make sense, right? If I have investment in them, then I'm going to keep covering them. When Demo made that change, I was very outspoken on my spaces, on my streams, that I was sunsetting my fleet. Like, you got to pivot. I mean, I'd say the opposite is true of a project like Silencio, where like I was not a believer in Silencio when they were doing noise pollution data. I was like, hey, it's a cool project. There's a market there, but how big is that total addressable market? They pivoted. And then I was like, okay, well, now my sentiments changed on this project in a positive way. The same can be true in a negative way, though. Like, you've got to be flexible and take new information in and be willing to change your investment thesis based on new information. These are startups, man. Like, if you've ever been involved in the startup world, there's always going to be risk there. And a lot of times startups pivot, multiple times, or getting to too many verticals and have to, focus on their profit centers or see what's going to work out for them. So you have to be really adaptable if you're going to be investing in this space, and be willing to do the time to, put in the time to do the research. So let's see here. What everyone wants me to talk about Hivemapper. I mean, I've been pretty open about how I feel about Hivemapper. Like, I think that they had a lot of dilution. I think they had too much dilution up front, in my opinion. We rode the wave up. We got in. I was very early, put in pre-orders the first day on the dash cams, built up a fleet, helped them get off the ground, did quite well. I think for a lot of people that got in very early, did quite well. Unfortunately, I think there's a couple of missteps for them. One was that their tokenomics were too dilutive early. I think Gabe pushed rewards down a little bit too much and killed a lot of their momentum. And then the hardware delays. I mean, hardware is difficult, and they had substantial delays that killed a lot of momentum. I'll say they did get, they probably have more customers, Web2 customers, than most other DePINs out there. So they did a pretty decent job there. But, when the market turned downward and they had killed their momentum that much, it's really, really hard at that point. And the token's been down, So for me, it was great to, you got to look at the tokenomics very closely on these things. I like Rover a lot and what they're doing, but look at their dilution schedule, guys, right? That's one of the reasons why I'm so bullish on ETH, is because I think that they're going to drive substantially more revenue than other DePIN projects, but their dilution is nowhere near as bad as these other projects, man. They don't even start team and investor unlocks until October of this year, and then it's 3 years from there. Look at these other projects that have crazy dilution coming up that's taking place right now. That you have to factor that in, right? Hivemapper got up to 34 cents before all the unlocks. Well, then you saw the amount of unlocks that happened over the subsequent 2 years after that. Yes, market conditions have had an impact. There's no doubt about it. It's had an impact on everybody. But I also think there were some things they could have done differently as well, obviously. Said Ariel needs to, Ariel has been in mapping a long time. I think he was hyper focused and always has been on the business side and getting customers and the hardware side, whatever. He's never been like super crypto focused. I think Gabe really took the reins there a lot. And then I don't know if y'all saw, but I think they're hiring for someone to take over like their foundation right now. And I think a lot of that is probably going to be stepping in more on the crypto side of things. I don't think that the crypto side has ever really excited him too much. Let's see. Yeah. I don't really have much more to say about it than that. He said, I still don't see a major TAM for Silencio. I would have thought the same thing. But talking to industry experts that are selling the shit out of that data, I can tell you that there is a huge market for it. They've scraped most of the internet's data, but now, okay, so let me talk through this a little bit. So yeah, I was surprised as well, frankly. But some of these huge AI labs are buying a ton of voice data. So at the beginning, it's more, okay, they want to just get language data and whatever specific language. So there's still a lot of languages around the world where they're just trying to get very basic data. Now, like in the US, it's gone past that. With English, for example, it's, okay, now we need more conversational data. We need more emotions, for training these models. Is not just the language anymore. It's very niche types of data collection. And that's what they're looking for. So it's really progressing, but there's a massive demand and a huge market for it, actually. So it was surprising to me, but I've been able to verify that now from not just Silencio, but from other teams that are doing something very similar to what they're doing. All right. What else you guys got? What else you guys got? Any other questions? Any other projects? Let me well, while you guys load up some questions, let me talk about a couple of spaces I have coming up. So number one, next Tuesday I've got Spexy coming on. I was able to connect with them at ETH Denver, and Alec is their COO that's coming on. They're doing some cool shit, man. They're very similar to most DePINs. They're mapping hexes, and you just throw a drone up with a pre-programmed flight plan, and it's collecting data, and then they're stitching together imagery. So, if you ever heard of an orthomosaic or photogrammetry, so photogrammetry is the process of collecting thousands of images basically in a tight pattern, and then it's stitched together all those images like a puzzle to create what's called an orthomosaic, which is a super high res image. And it has very tight geospatial data and everything in it. I did a lot of work with those when I worked in the drone service industry when I lived in DC, but they're doing this across the entire world, and they've got some sizable contracts in the hopper right now. So pretty exciting. They're currently paying out with US dollars. They're going to be moving to stable coins on chain and then eventually launch a token. So I'll have Alec on next Tuesday. And there's Alec right here, Alec Wilson. And then the following week, I'm going to have Glow on, and they are basically closing the solar funding gap. So a lot of these solar farms are, some of them are very close to getting financed, and they're kind of coming in and closing that financing gap, and then they're able to collect on incentives and stuff and make a pretty decent return. David Vorik is their founder and CEO. So he was a co-founder of SIA and also a very early Bitcoin investor. Dude's freaking smart, man. I was able to sit down with him at ETH Denver as well. So those are the next two deep and connected spaces. So that'll be exciting. And man, that's what I got. Let's see if we have any more comments. Oops. I'm not trying to go full screen here. Let me get, there we go. How do you earn? Well, they have a platform that you can go on to. Well, right now you earn in USDC, and in stable coins, actually USDT, I think. So you can earn in stable coins right now for participating. I believe for a while there, they had the ability to earn SLC that way. I think they're going to have a feature to opt either way. I've just bought the token. I mean, these base chain coins are super easy to purchase, especially through the Coinbase app, through their DEX, super easy. When I change to macro connection, I don't have any intentions to change my my name. Honestly, I think there's a very bright future. I mean, I think we went through the same shit back in the last bear market. I don't know if you guys remember, like Helium was completely dead. Forbes basically said that DePIN was dead, and then sure enough, like, guys, we made a freaking killing in 2024, or at least if you were positioned well, you did. And then, I think we're dealing with the same thing right now. But I think there's gonna be a lot of projects that get washed out, but there will be a handful that do really well, as the market rebounds again. So I'm looking at positioning into those and have been building up pretty sizable positions in my conviction plays, just like I did in the last bear market, and looking to get some crazy returns again. That's the plan. Also trading macro, obviously, and the larger macro trends, and then finding like where the alpha is at the moment, which right now is AI agents, and finding those plays. So, that's kind of my strategy, and it's been going pretty well, actually. Let's see. We got anybody else? Startup world is ruthless. Quez knows. It is ruthless, man. You got to be able to freaking adapt, and it's stressful too. It really is. But fortunately for those guys over 375 AI, they've got a team with some pockets, so they're gonna make it happen over there, man. Let's see. What else do we got here? We got a lot of comments. I don't know if we have any. I think I've addressed most of them. All right. Well, that's what I got for y'all. It was a little bit shorter of a stream, but I've got a bunch of stuff I got to work on this evening. So I will be back again probably on Friday. What about DeepIn? Will the narrative ever catch a day in the sun? What do you mean, will it ever? It has. I mean, in the bull market when alts went off, DeepIn projects had outlandish returns compared to everything else. You know, because I see this routinely where everyone's like, we never saw an alt season. Like alts are, because people are still holding like freaking L1s from the last market cycle that went crazy. Most of those never hit their all-time highs again. Several of my investments did anywhere from a 15 to few hundred X. So I was looking at the returns I hit on versus most people. I don't think most people got anywhere near to what we saw with the top DeepIn projects, in 2024 when the market was up. Now I think you can make the argument that these projects are much better off. I mean, there's a lot of them that are producing far more revenue than any of them were back then. And then some of them actually have some pretty solid tokenomics where the revenue is tied to their token. So I think we've seen this trend, right? Where 2 market cycles ago is like Helium, just off a hype, maybe some Sam Bankman-Fried, when Alameda invested in them, but like no revenue. It's just based off like this concept. And frankly, the IoT network was never had a chance in generating enough revenue to justify that market cap. This last, market cycle in March of 2024 is like, okay, these things are starting to get some usage now. There is a real addressable market that they're hitting. We're seeing some Web 2 customers actually partnering with these projects. And it's like, okay, now the revenue scaling. Now it got to a point where they have more customers that demanding more coverage, and they have quite the opposite that we saw in the last market cycle where they had so much supply and participants but not enough customers. Now they have customers demanding more data than they have, right? And more data than they have coverage for. So I think the problem that led to that is that some of these projects were hoping to just create price appreciation off a hype. And they had this fundamental disconnect between the revenue they're generating and their token price. And obviously, I think we're learning now that those projects didn't structure things properly. Right. So I think, GeoNet's the first of the OGs that I think has the fundamental connection. And I think it'll be exciting to see as the market rebounds a bit, how their token does, because it's held up better than the rest. It didn't pump like the rest, but it's been kind of this like even keel move, like compared to the bear market of the last bear market, it's still up 400 or 500%. None of these other tokens can say that, so I know for some people they're like, well, I wanted to see a 10x pump. Well, note that those other ones that did the 10x pump are back down 90%. GeoNet's kind of been the steady Eddie, which is probably not as exciting, but that's probably what we're going to see more of with these actual DeepIn projects that are truly building is more, I guess longer term upside, but more steady increases versus like the pump and dump, and that's the hope. Why is Solana not running? It's the best chain possible. What does that mean? Across the board, all network hardware has gone up in price. Lead times have nearly doubled. This is due to manufacturers focusing on AI chipsets. Sure. Yeah, that's that. I think that's fair. What else do we got here? So why is Solana not running? It's the best chain possible. I don't know what you mean by that. Has Gina ever had a run? Yeah. I mean, guys, it went from, it was like 2.5 cents, I would say, at the bottom of the last bear market. It got up to like 38 cents. So yeah, I would say that's a pretty decent run. I don't know. Are you talking on the DEX? I've been using the centralized exchanges for it, where the liquidity is pretty substantial. So I haven't been using the DEXs, frankly. So I haven't looked at the liquidity on the DEXs. But for all these people, I don't understand people that are dogging on that project. It's like funny to me. I think that all those people are going to be so freaking wrong. That'd be funny to me. What else we got? Cat bounce. What's up, Sky? We got Sky in the house. Sky's going to be streaming here shortly. Later tonight. I'll be on there. I'll be a viewer. Trying to see what other questions we have. You said a Quez take time out of the studio. Y'all are such haters. That dude lives rent free in your heads. It's crazy. You guys talk about him like all day. It's so funny. What's up with it? What do you mean? Let's go. See, we got some people. Yep, I'm a pretty substantial holder myself. I'm excited. I keep adding more though. Outlet said rent free for reals though. These people are out here. It's so funny to me. Some of these keyboard warriors, like they literally spend their entire life like thinking about how to dog someone. I'm like, bro, if you spent that much energy on something productive, think about where you could be. Instead of like sitting here thinking about, oh, I need to go in this Discord with my 10 alt accounts so I can like hate on them all day. It's like, that's like the opposite of productivity. I don't know how people, that must be like a really sad life, honestly. It's so funny. Is there really a moat for the Silencio pivot? Well, I think it's a fair question. I think that, sorry, I saw another comment come through. I think that there's enough demand for the data that they're collecting. They don't necessarily have to have a huge moat. But the other thing is, if they can get, I think through their app, if they can start driving certain behaviors for that niche data I was talking about, like whether it's conversational data or this is kind of interesting. One of the companies that's selling this data, they're like, if you could get a conversation of two people arguing, that would demand 4 times as much as your traditional voice data. So I think for them, in order to really continue driving a lot of value and a lot of money from their data collection, they're going to have to get a little bit more specific in the type of voice data, which they're starting to do. Some of the campaigns are starting to specify certain emotions and stuff. So I think that is how they will have their motives, by having a lot of participation and being able to collect mass data that's very specified. That's how they'll continue. I still want that 375 Miami Heat hat. I want the other one. Let's see. I don't know if I got anything else in here. What is Bitcoin sitting at? Someone said that we had a dead cat bounce. That's not fun. Oh yeah, wow. It is dropping, isn't it? Well, like I said, if we drop back below 72, I will be absolutely closing those longs from last night and probably going short, actually. But I'm not surprised. I mean, we got up to that 74 is going to be hard to break through. There's going to be a lot of sell pressure there, guys. I mean, we hit it, we tapped it, and it was just like, it's going to take a handful of tries, I think, to break back above that. But that's the level I'm looking at before I get into any aggressive longs. Until then, I'm just kind of watching to see how this plays out. But if we lose 72 again, probably be looking, especially if we move like aggressively through that level, I'll probably look to open shorts again. I would much rather be long, guys, but like it doesn't matter. The market doesn't care what I think or what I want. You gotta pay attention to what the market's showing us, man. Here we go. Let me pull this guy up. We are. Isn't that crazy, these levels, though? I've had these drawn for forever. And it's just like it was drawn up, man. Crazy. Well, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we start fading back down again. But it's been an exciting rally, and I hope it continues. But we'll see what the market does. Oh, this is the question Bobby asked. So Solana has the best ecosystem out there. Why is the token not running? Do you hold Solana? I have some Solana, but most of my exposure in Solana is holding projects built on Solana. So here's the deal with Solana, man. It's the token does do well. I think they've gotten institutional interest, especially in this current market cycle, but they have a lot of inflation. I want to say they have like 7% inflation every year. So there's no cap supply on Solana. And really, while people are building on it, how much of that value accrues to Solana? Even these deep end projects, a lot of their businesses, while they're generating revenue, the transactions are there when they're sending out like payments, right, with their token, but like it's not like there's a ton of on-chain activity going on from those. That Pump Fund was where they had a ton of revenue coming in because people were transacting on it. So I think for me, like it seems the market cap compared to how much it's generating in fees, I don't know, man. Like I think most L1s are overvalued. Even if it gets used a lot, it needs to get used a lot more if we want to see any significant appreciation of the price outside of just speculative buying. So will they be on Coinbase? I mean, eventually probably, but generally the way this works, and I was talking to another project founder about this one from a different project, but you normally get kind of, when you have your token launch, you kind of get one shot at getting some big exchange listings. And then what you choose from there is kind of what you're stuck with for a while. That's normally how that works. So, and this founder in particular was talking about how at the time they didn't understand that's how it worked. And now it's been difficult to get on other exchanges. So I don't know. I mean, that's one thing 375 AI did a good job of, is getting on some pretty, notable exchanges right off the bat. I personally don't necessarily love that strategy. I used to be a huge fan of centralized exchanges early, but now it seems like there's very extractive. And then you have those tokens out there and they generally just sell them. So it just creates sell pressure. And I don't know how much value it adds. I mean, it makes it more accessible. Like I'm, buying ETH through Kraken, but I don't know. I just don't know how much of a net positive it is at this point. Like you look at some of the projects that launched on Binance, like all of them pretty much got crushed. So I don't know that it adds that much. And I know they take a lot of tokens, and so it's pretty extractive. So I don't know. I've kind of gone back and forth on that and whether or not it's important. But geez, Bitcoin, that's not pretty, guys. Token launch, Wingbits. Yeah, I don't know why Wingbits is delayed so much. That's crazy to me. They talked about in the DABA space today that they've been getting prepped for their TGE, but again, they've delayed. All these projects have delayed. I like DABA. I get they're going to do in December, or like Q4 of last year, and that's when we had the huge market crash. Like, it's defendable. But at the same time, like now we're almost into Q2 and it's like, launch your freaking token. At a certain point, you can't just delay forever and wait for perfect market conditions. Like it's never going to be perfect. And realistically, they've done some studies on this, looking at tokens that launched in bull versus bear markets that had very negligible impact on the long term of the token anyway. So for me, I don't know. I wish they would just launch. Hopefully they launch soon. I think Wingbits has waited too long, in my opinion, man. Like, they should have launched a long time ago. When you say Nike? What are you talking about, Tyler? What is this? What's Raya? I don't know what that one is. All right, y'all. Well, I'm gonna jump, I suppose, and watch Bitcoin maybe bleed out and maybe open up a short position if it drops below 72,000. Let's hope not. Let's hope that it comes back up again. Let's hope we break above 74,000. Everyone has sugar plums and unicorns. Everyone's excited. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the Happy Gilmore. It's like, go to your happy place. And his happy place is like a midget on like a horse. It's so funny. Let's get there. Let's get there again. I'm so tired of the bleeding. It's just disgusting. It's terrible. You said that they run a consulting firm with Nick Hawks. How much business are they doing? I don't know. Why are you asking me? I'm not in their business. I have no idea. I have no idea how much they're making or how much business they're doing in their consulting firm. I mean, hopefully they're doing well. Any update on Rover? No update on Rover, really. I mean, I know that they have been burning tokens. For me, my thesis, if you look at my video when I did the tokenomics breakdown, was the sooner the market can bounce back, the better, because for them, they've got a lot of dilution coming. And I think the upside, while it's very much there, starts to become diminished over time, especially with the amount of token unlocks they have coming up over the next year or two. So you see a pretty drastic difference on the multiples that I think we could see Rover do the longer this downturn draws out. So that's my view on it. I know there's a lot of people out there that are mining the token. I think it's a good project, but again, they've got to either get a lot of revenue turned on very quickly, or they need market sentiment to turn around before that dilution hits, in my opinion, if you want to see like massive upside at least. So that's my synopsis. All right, y'all. I will catch you all. I should be back Friday. I'll be on the Deep and Happy Hour tomorrow night. So hopefully y'all have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you in a couple days. Peace.